season ends here.
They win the college baseball crown.
This is Perfect Game College Baseball on ESPNU Radio, SiriusXM, Channel 84.
History happens here.
Here are your hosts, Daron Sutton and Hunter Pence.
We do it every week, and we love that you're hanging out with us. He's Hunter Pence. My name is Daron Sutton. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Eclectic, I guess that's the right word, Hunter. When you talk about our show, you've got an epic recruiter, Tony Vitello, who's moving his team to the top of the SEC. You've got Bethune-Cookman, who plays at an HBCU, and we've got what's your puppy dog's name, by the way?
Foxy. Foxy's going crazy. We're gonna have to. We'll get her on a walk here in a second.
No, that's good. She's hanging out with us. She's welcome. But we also have a program that lost its program this year and will not play till 2022. Bethune-Cookman, and then a player that plays here at Vegas. And thank you guys for hosting me. I'm in the press box at UNLV at their beautiful baseball park. But this is a fun, unique, eclectic show.
Excited to talk baseball. We definitely have some amazing people here, and definitely interested to see over at Bethune, what they're doing with regards to the terrible news and the tough times. But we got great baseball to learn. We got great baseball to talk to, and a nice young prospect. I'm pumped for the show.
We are pumped. Certainly, Jack Thomas Wold from UNLV will join us. We want to thank the UNLV program for hosting us for this show. Hunter at his home studio, where I'm usually at my home studio, but out on the road, it's good to be at a ballpark. Hunter, by the way, it looks beautiful out here. Like, it looks spectacular.
It's tough to beat that feeling.
And baseball, maybe coming soon. It's kind of cool, huh?
It's great.
All right, well, Foxy and Hunter will be back with us in a minute for the great interviews. He's Hunter Pence. I'm Daron Sutton. You're hanging with us. This is the only show devoted to college baseball. This is Perfect Game College Baseball.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech. When the best and most impactful in an industry join forces, you, the athlete, win. This is PG Tech, a partnership driven by Perfect Game and K-Motion, an innovator in human motion learning, along with several best-in-class companies elevating technology and athlete development. It's a combination of state-of-the-art technologies, 3D body measurement, high-speed cameras, launch monitors, radar, bat sensors in the PG Tech cloud, guiding players, coaches, scouts, and recruiters in making their best decisions. PG Tech will help athletes and instructors achieve their goals by understanding the cause and effect of a player's movement to improve the development of that player. In other words, this is the best answer. Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech.
This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Here's Daron Sutton and Hunter Pence.
What a job Tony Vitello has done at Tennessee, and excited to, as we've talked about throughout our different content, the Power 5 conferences, and especially the SEC, is a pace car, right? So we want to learn what these programs are doing, based on COVID, certainly, but based on just getting better and growing. And so Tony spends time with us now. Tony V, thank you. We really appreciate the time you've given Hunter and I, and I guess I will start there. What's the very latest for Tennessee baseball? What does your calendar look like as you anticipate, getting things going with your SEC and non-conference schedule? Tell us what the very latest is in the next coming weeks for Tennessee baseball.
Sure. Right now, we're just preparing as if we will start on opening day, and all signs point to February 19th being the first day the season will start. That was as is planned. And then a little more clarity has come to light. SEC play will operate under regular terms, however you want to call it. 30 games will start the same weekend we were supposed to. And we're relieved just to hear that we're going to play and we're going to have a season. But with that scheduling, it leaves a lot of room for chaos with midweek games, extra travel for either our team or other teams. So we're training like we do any other year, but we're doing it under COVID protocols, and we are stressing like crazy. Be ready to adapt to anything and everything goofy that could happen during the spring.
Yeah, Tony, and that's kind of been the MO since this whole pandemic has hit. I see you got your mask around your neck. I remember, it's definitely tough times, having to schedule all these things. But I want to, first of all, just congratulate you guys on being able to deal with all of that and keeping the guys all pumped up. It looked like your fall went really well. But I want to ask about the starts to your last two seasons. You started 2019 15-0, ended with 40 wins. You started last year 13-0, beating a top-ranked number 1 in the nation, Texas Tech, winning a really tough tournament with Stanford and Houston. Talk a little bit about how you get off the ball running so well with your teams.
Well, I think, I've been fortunate enough. I kind of have a recruiting background. I like coaching, and I think I can coach a little bit, but I also am smart enough to know that if you can hire people that are experts in their field, then you really don't have to do much other than sit back and watch. And if you look at our pitching coach's resume, Frank Anderson, our strength coach, our third base coach, Coach E, several other people involved with our guys, we've got a lot of really, really good people surrounding our players. And so the information is there for our guys to be prepared and learn before the season. The X factor, I feel like, with our program is, we really haven't done a lot. I mean, when you and I were younger, Tennessee was one of the best programs in the country with guys like Hochaver and Burke and J. Pierre and Sebia. Recent history has not been that kind to our program. So we've got a lot of room to make up when you talk about programs like Florida and others in our league that have won national championships or been to Omaha lately. So preparation there's a little bit more sense of urgency in our program than maybe another. And it's not, who knows if we're better or worse, but it's just the nature of the beast. You call it like it is. So we kind of feel a sense of urgency or even a little bit of pressure right now to prepare better than the other SEC programs because we don't have the fanciest stadium or the recent history success or maybe even some of the other big names that are in those other programs. And I think that's bled into the start of those 2 years.
Yeah, well, it seems like you guys are definitely up and coming with kind of the momentum you've built. And talking about recruiting and some of the names you've recruited, obviously, Scherzer, Kinsler, Benintendi. What is the knack for recruiting? What are some of the things? Because, you've recruited such great teams for so many different organizations along the way that you've been a part of. How do you recruit better than the guy next to you? Like, is it scouting? Is it personal relationships? Is it persistence? What are some of your things you really hone in on to be the most efficient recruiter?
Sure. I'll start by saying I'm single. So that helps, being on the road a little more often or being at the park earlier and later than the next guy. And there's plenty of guys with families too. I'm amazed at the sacrifices. Whether it's down at, perfect game events or wherever it might be, there's just so much time that's put into this in non-COVID times, that is. And so I've just tried to be at the park more than the other guy because when I started out, I really didn't know what I was doing. I got thrown into the position at a young age and I didn't even really deserve that position. So I tried to make up for things by running around a little extra. And then as a player, I wasn't that skilled. And so determination is kind of what helped me push through some really, really ugly times on the field for me. And that determination is carried over in recruiting because like insurance sales or whatever it is, even the very best programs, they hear no every now and then. And no's not fun to hear. And then there's some guys that, our best hitter, arguably our best hitter, it took him forever to make up his mind what he wanted to do. And some schools just kind of bowed out. And so that determination, you brought it up, it helped lead me in my answer, is huge. And then I'll say this for the programs I've been a part of. I think it's foolish, especially in our sport, to tunnel vision or restrict yourself by this is the type of guy we have to have. As you know, actually from your style of play, there's no one right way to do this in our sport. So a guy like Scherzer has arm strength and intelligence, and then who knew he was going to be so dang competitive? And other guys you've mentioned are really fluid with their actions, or other guys are really good players. They just haven't grown into their bodies. Other guys are great students or the first guy to sprint off the field, So it's all about having a resume that has some positive attributes. And obviously the more you have, the more attractive you are. But if we can get a guy in our program around those people I was complimenting, and they've got just a few positive attributes, we can add to that resume and you'll have yourself an SEC competitor.
Well, that's a great answer. Tony Vitello is the head coach at Tennessee and doing really, really good things. There's a bunch of players I want to ask you about. I'm kind of geeked out on your roster, but I'm going to start with your catcher. I can remember going to, I want to say it was the main event showcase. I apologize, I don't remember, but getting to know Connor Pavoloni a couple of years ago when he was committed to your program. And what stood out to me was the maturity, right? What stood out to me as a high schooler was the maturity and the work ethic. Haven't really touched base with him since. And now here he is as a guy who's one of the best players on your team. Tell me about Connor, how he's evolved, and who he is now as a man, as an athlete who's one of the key players on Tennessee's baseball team.
Yeah, he was mature for his age and a leader right out of the gate as a catcher, but he is light years from what he was as a freshman on his routines, how his reactions are to negativity or success on the field, and just the way he handles himself in general is literally like another coach, which is a dream at that position, behind the plate, whether it kind of being a point guard of the defense or the relationship with the pitchers. But really for him, he was given some skill by God, some arm strength, naturally a good physique, but he is a maniac worker to the point he's kind of the next Andre Lipschitz. I don't know if you remember that name. He's with the Tigers now and should make it to the big leagues. He was our best player. Andre and Pav are guys that we've literally had to say, no more today. You need to go home. That's enough repetitions, or get out of the weight room. We don't need any more than what you've already done. And that's a dream as a coach, to have to throttle down as opposed to trying to light a fire under guys. And he's positioned himself where he's going to be an argument for being one of the best catchers in the country. And even though he was talented in high school, he hasn't been put on that pedestal yet. So he kind of has that edge to him that he still has something to prove to people, even though to our coaching staff, he's proved an awful lot.
Well, that's so cool, because it's interesting when you think about it. It's all coming back to me now. Like, I remember exactly what you're saying. Love the work ethic, love the skill set, but wasn't the PG All-American, wasn't, as you said, on that pedestal. And maybe that's the best. It's funny. Sometimes that's the best thing for athletes, is to not get everything and earn everything right away. That's a great perspective. There's two other guys, and we can just answer in the same answer. But Max Ferguson is right up there with him, and so is Jake Rucker. Obviously, Max is your incredibly athletic second baseman. Jake over there, probably your best all-around hitter at third. Just a quick update on both of those as they progress and get ready for the season.
Yeah, starting with Rucker, he's one of the only players in our program right now that's basically started every game the last couple of years. And I know last year was shortened, but he's been steady Eddie, Mr. Reliable. He's a guy that you can really say anything you want to. As a coach now, I don't care who you are, the days of Bobby Knight are over with. You got to have some sort of sensitivity to who you're working with. And with Jake Rucker, I think in part to the household he grew up in, he's just an incredibly tough kid. And you can say and do whatever you'd like with him. And he serves example that coachability to our guys. But he's gotten stronger and stronger. He hit a ball off our batter's eye last year. And as a skinny kid that committed to it, he was our first commit when we got the job. I never would have thought I would have seen much power at all, much less the ability to drive the ball off our batter's eye to dead center. He's become a tremendous third baseman. A lot of people want to compare him to Andre Lipschitz, who we had a couple years ago. I don't know where he stacks up offensively with Andre, but I think he's a better defender and is kind of like an added shortstop at third base. And then Max Ferguson really can play anywhere, first base, center field, second base, could probably play short if we had to. It's hard to argue that we have a better athlete than him. He's going to steal a lot of bases. He's become kind of a student of the game as it relates to stealing bases. And on top of it, he's got tremendous speed and quickness. So he's a fun one, and he'll be somewhere at the top of the order, if not leading off, and might be kind of the tone setter for our team. And even though he's still putting weight on that kind of rail frame he came in with, he's shown a little bit of pop in the bat as well.
Really impressive stuff. And 2020, you guys were tops of the nation in almost every offensive category and even several pitching categories with that great start. I'd like to ask if there's been any players that have really popped off in the fall, some people that we can look forward to. And I also kind of want to hear a little bit about Crockett and his exciting year he had last year, getting drafted so high and some of his success and even the big leagues, I believe.
Sure. No, we've had a lot of guys. This is what frustrates me about the midweek schedule is in our program in particular, and probably others because of the draft, we have a ton of guys that are not in the Garrett Crochet type model, but are guys who can play pro baseball. They're good players, and it's a heavy roster like most have. So a lot of guys have jumped out as guys that deserve to play, and that's why we want to play 56 games so bad, because we got to mix these guys in. Now, having said that, one guy, that's really stuck out is Jordan Beck. He's a sophomore, I think a potential first rounder, just a big right-handed bat. And we've got some guys that can swing the bat. So if our offensive guys are in awe of one of their teammates, that's pretty impressive. And I think they're in awe of Jordan Beck at times, even though he's got a long way to go before he's a solidified SEC middle-of-the-order guy. And then Jarrell Ortega led our team in quality at-bats in the fall. He was injured as a freshman, but he's a Florida kid, Puerto Rican descent, that we're going to have to put in the lineup somewhere. So he'll be a fun one to mix in as well. But getting to the even more exciting answer, just what Garrett did last year was phenomenal. I mean, throwing harder than Aroldis Chapman, throwing strikes, having the presence of not a veteran, but a non-rookie big leaguer was all incredibly exciting. And it was cool to be in the building when he made his debut and at other times because his teammates were so geeked up for him. And the reason they were is Garrett is such a phenomenal teammate, a very unique dude, as most lefties are, phenomenal teammate. And it would have been nice if we could have been in Omaha and he was throwing 102 miles for us. But there's a lot of ifs and buts for everybody out there as it relates to COVID circumstances.
Yeah, it was really remarkable watching him pitch. Sorry, I butchered the name, Crochet. I just read the back of the jersey, but I saw him pumping that 102. I happened to have it on TV. And I was like, who is this guy, and how did he not go in the top 5 picks? I'll take him.
No, well, it was a great start, but he hasn't earned the right for guys like you to memorize his name or stats or anything like that. So, and he knows that. He's still got a little humility into him, even though he's confident on the mound. And he and Max Scherzer had a good conversation. And even though Garrett was kind of known as this dude's probably going to be a first rounder, Max kind of put him in his place and said, dude, you haven't done anything yet. This is a game you want to be good at when you're 28, 29, 30 years old. And I think even though he had a great year last year, I think it's going to be scary how good he can be if he does the right things on and off the field. And hopefully he is one of those guys that's playing when he's 30, if not longer.
Tony Vitello is hanging out with us now. I want to talk about Redmond Walsh because his first couple of years, he probably wasn't doing what Redmond Walsh wanted to do as far as playing time goes. And he has been his last 2 years. That's a pretty inspirational story, right? I mean, there's a guy who has shown just because it's not going the way you hope it's going, or, you're not pitching as much as you want, stick to it. It seems like he's such a great story, great example for young baseball players and for you as a coach.
No doubt. And I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story. Frank Anderson, whose son Brett Anderson pitches in the big leagues now for over 10 years. Frank tells it like it is. I mean, I don't know that he's old school because he's really smart and adapts to the new age of baseball, but he definitely speaks his mind like an old school guy. We show up after getting the job and Redmond's on the field, and Frank thought he was a manager. Redmond is not, even though he's our closer, he doesn't have Brian Wilson's stature or anybody like that. So we first thought, Redmond was just a kind of an extra guy or, a good student they gave an opportunity to here before we got here. But he's willed his way into a very vital position for our team. And that's after multiple surgeries, redshirting, not being strong enough to carry himself the right way in the weight room. But the guy has unbelievable character. And one of my favorite moments as a coach was last year. We were able to reward him with a scholarship, even though he's been a walk-on player. Unfortunately, due to NCAA rules, it wasn't a full scholarship, but we gave him what we could. And he broke down in tears in the office. And, it just really made his day, if not the rest of the season. And he's worth every penny and more because he's a huge piece of what we have, even though he's not kind of that, top 5 rounder, prototypical pro draft guy.
The other one that's pretty cool is a transfer from Eastern Tennessee State who's always wanted to be a part of your program, more of a local product, growing up wanting to go to Tennessee. Tell me a little bit about Jackson Greer. That's a pretty cool story too.
Yeah, Jackson Greer lives right next to our favorite burger place, which is about 15 minutes from the stadium, and always dreamed of coming here, but it wasn't in the cards with the old staff. It's hard to keep everybody that's a Vol fan, or bring them to the program. But he went to East Tennessee State, where they have an excellent program, and was one of their best players really his entire career there. And with the grad transfer rule, he probably wouldn't have been able to utilize that and come here like he did in a normal draft. But with the draft being 5 rounds only, he didn't receive a pro opportunity. So he wanted to come here to live out his dream, but also continue the dream of wanting to be a pro baseball player. And, on the SEC stage, if you can show these guys anything, there's a ton of respect for our conference, as the numbers show. He'll get his opportunity. So hopefully he gets to kind of live out two dreams over the course of one spring. But either way, his passion for the color orange is shown every day around here. So he's been a nice, breath of fresh air for the program.
Yeah, Tony, it's been a breath of fresh air getting to talk to you. You already got me fired up. I can feel your heart, your determination, your grit that you instill into these players. And it feels like it's going to be an exciting season watching the Tennessee Vols this year. I can't wait to follow you guys the rest of the way. But I just want to say that I can feel that oozing from you. And I think, the one thing you said when you were talking recruiting, and I know that you're a master of the recruiting and all of that, is hustling on and off the field and seeing the first guy off the field. Can you give me maybe a story of one of the guys that's done that you were I'm kind of on him, but this guy's really got that extra passion and it brought him to Tennessee because of that? I think kids need to hear that.
Yeah, no doubt. And sorry to bounce around, but the first thing that popped into my head was Bill Miller, who was a San Francisco Giant. Bill went to my high school, played for my dad, and a scout went to go watch Andy Bennis pitch for Creighton. But Billy Miller swung the bat, even though he wasn't a pro prospect, swung the bat well that day and also ran around on the field like a madman, was Tiny Thomas's quote about Billy. And next thing you know, he's a draft pick. So you never know who's watching and what they're looking for. Rob Zastresny was a kid that I signed at University of Missouri. I only saw him play catch with the right fielder, but the way he got after it, I was able to see the way his arm worked. And next thing you know, the head coach goes to see him, and he's a first rounder and ends up in the big leagues. And then Jake Rucker is a kid who we talked about here. The way he interacted with his family before and after the game, with respect and energy, being in the stands, sometimes you cross paths with people at some of these facilities. And the way he was in the dugout with his teammates, on and off the field, down the line when he was sprinting on a ground ball he'd hit, just all those things showed he's got a little bit of skill, but he's also got something to him. And right now, we just got to this program. We kind of need to influence, the program with some character guys, not just coming from the coaching staff, but from guys in the locker room. And he just showed in a bunch of different little ways, hey, I don't know if this guy will hit 300 or 200, but he's going to be valuable in the locker room. And it's worked out well, and he's one of our kind of quote-unquote captains now.
Gosh, Tony, I just appreciate your insights. We're excited for what's ahead. And like I said, I'm on campus here at UNLV. I'm looking out at a baseball field. That's what makes me happy. And I know you guys are getting out on a baseball field too. So best of luck. Hunter and I would like to connect with you again here in a month or two and see how things are going. But for now, stay healthy and get things going right, Tony.
I love it. Hopefully we got good news in a month, and I'm antsy to go. So that's why it kind of seems like I'm on the edge of my seat. And hopefully we can get our guys to play like Hunter, mentally and physically. We'll be working on that the next few weeks and look forward to catching up with you guys again.
That's why I got the best co-host. Everyone, Hunter's watching. Hunter is watching. He played the right way. He's Tony. He's Hunter. I'm Daron. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. More in a second.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech. When the best and most impactful in an industry join forces, you, the athlete, win. This is PG Tech, a partnership driven by Perfect Game and K-Motion, an innovator in human motion learning, along with several best-in-class companies elevating technology and athlete development. It's a combination of state-of-the-art technologies, 3D body measurement, high-speed cameras, launch monitors, radar, bat sensors in the PG Tech cloud, guiding players, coaches, scouts, and recruiters in making their best decisions. PG Tech will help athletes and instructors achieve their goals by understanding the cause and effect of a player's movement to improve the development of that player. In other words, this is the best answer. Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech.
This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Here's Daron Sutton and Hunter Pence.
So Bethune-Cookman got some tough news as they headed into their school year, and then obviously now we're in 2021. There is no athletics at Bethune-Cookman this year. And that breaks everyone's heart, right? When you have guys that work so hard to get to this point to play their season. But I think the perspective is important. I think the perspective of Johnny Hernandez, as everyone knows him in the baseball world, is very important. So let's visit Hunter and I. Let's visit Daytona Beach. Johnny, thanks for spending time with us. First, when you heard the news, it had to be a punch to the gut to kind of recollect what you went through. And then as we talk today, what are the positives? What are you able to do with your athletes? How are you challenging them to be ready for the 2021 season? Or I should say the 2022, but heck, the fall and summer coming up too. How are things going for you?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. Definitely appreciate, you guys reaching out and, getting this conversation going, but definitely punch in the gut. It's not the first time this news was handed down, to us. As everyone knows, COVID-19 impacted everyone, last spring, but definitely a punch in the gut, receiving the news. I think the biggest thing that gets lost in all of this is the relationships that are formed, with our day-to-day, with our players, definitely giving them the news that unfortunately we were not going to have a season this year, but it brings everything into perspective. And it's just like in life in general, right? You get punched down and, things don't go your way, you face adversity, but those that are able to rise up and rise to the challenge, it's going to make our guys better in the long run. Going through this little stage of us, unfortunately, not competing in the 2021 season moving forward.
Yeah, Johnny. So I know that that's a tough conversation. And to me, obviously life is about how do you respond. And so I really want to know what's your message to them? How do you stay on them? What's the plans moving forward? And how do you keep it coordinated and organized and keeping the team together so that when we do get to better times, where you're able to, hit the ground running? Because I'm sure you're into doing some of that.
Yeah. So, some of our upperclassmen, that had their season impacted last year and they're set to graduate, we actually had one-on-one conversations with them and gave them an opportunity to seek an opportunity to finish off their careers. These are guys that, are going to be first-generation college graduates. So we wanted them to have an opportunity not only to graduate, but play their final year. And we all know two things, man. Baseball is going to come to an end at some point. We just don't know if that's after high school, after college, after professional baseball, as Hunter. But, the one thing that can't be taken away is the education and that degree that hangs up on the wall. So we're kind of taking the same approach that we've had the last 2 or 3 years here at Bethune, but more emphasis as far as, hey, let's get the education, make sure you guys do well. And our guys rose to the challenge. We had a 3.24 GPA as a team this fall, despite all the crazy stuff that went on, and keeping in contact with all of our guys, making sure they're getting their work in. And, I kind of tell them, take a summer ball approach to it. You go in, you do your work, and you get ready to roll when it is our time to get back on the field and, play the game that we love so much.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I think that's a great way to lead them. I want to also ask a pretty cool story about the Texas Collegiate League, and I hope I don't mess these guys' names up. Enrique Porches and Matthew Garcia got to play in the Texas Collegiate League together, both having pretty outstanding seasons. Can you talk a little bit about what they were able to do, and if any of them are going to be doing something similar this year to stay ready?
Yeah, man. I mean, Matthew Garcia, he was a preseason freshman, of the year here in the MEAC. And, he's a special kid, man. I mean, he was part of, that core and that nucleus of freshmen and junior college guys that we brought in with our first recruiting class, which was ranked, I think, 58th in the country by Perfect Game. Enrique Porches is a junior college standout from Arizona. And, they both had a great summer and it helped them not only on the field, but their development off the field as well, and getting to play against that type of caliber competition, it's only gonna benefit them in the long run. And unfortunately, Enrique Porches, we actually was one of those guys that transferred out, and he's at a powerhouse at Southeastern University in Florida NAIA program. And Matthew Garcia had to get this season under the belt. So just like him, man, we sent him off to a junior college here in Florida with the expectation of him coming back, but I mean, both of those dudes represented our program, very well, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Well, that's great. And it's great that, they stay in touch with you. They're taking the best option they can to find a place to play. This is a unique conversation for sure, and understanding what Johnny Hernandez is going through. You talked about the MEAC and mentioning, players being ranked in the MEAC. That's changing this summer. So the move out of the MEAC and into the SWAC, the historic the historic conference, HBCU conference. Talk to me about, as a coach, what that means, athletically, what that means, the move from your conference to the SWAC.
I think it's a great move, not only in athletics, but, as far as academics is a concern as well. I mean, we have a chance to, now have 12 teams in the SWAC. We're looking forward to the challenge. I mean, the history of our program, dating back, we've won 19 out of 22, 19 championships in 22 years in the MEAC. And we're looking forward to continue that dominance, heading into the SWAC. So, we're up for the challenge, and, we're going to do what we can to provide a quality product to compete for a SWAC championship and get an opportunity to get in the regionals. And that's going to be something that we're looking forward to. But I think overall, it's a great conference that we're going to go in. Got to recruit a little bit different based on the style of play in the SWAC as opposed to the MEAC conference. But like I said, man, we're excited about it, and, let's get ready to roll.
For casual baseball fans, I'm very curious about that last part of your answer. The style of play in the SWAC and how you're going to evolve your recruiting. That's super intriguing stuff. Take that thought deeper, please.
Well, I mean, you look at the SWAC, and it seems like, all those teams top to bottom they're aggressive on the base pass. They like to go first and third whenever they can, and they try and score a run or advance a guy to third with less than two. So for us, our philosophy is good pitching is going to beat good hitting, pitching and defense. And, that's kind of the way that we've attacked our recruiting cycle the last 2 years, as evident, in the COVID-19, excuse me. Our pitching staff was ranked 23rd in the country with a 2.54 staff ERA on the year. So you have little Bethune-Cookman, putting up those big numbers. But now you want to try and get a little bit more athleticism. You want to try and get some boppers in the middle of the order. I'm a pitching guy, so I know pitching and defense does win games, but it does help when you score 5, 6, 7 runs, in a ball game.
Johnny, I'm with you there. I think pitching and defense is the key to baseball. And yeah, having those boppers, but you don't hit your way to championships, and those
Absolutely.
are profound numbers. But I want to talk a little bit about developing pitching, because you have to recruit pitching, but you also got to develop it and to reach those numbers, where you are. So talk to me a little bit about how you like to develop the different pitchers and some of the good stories along the way with some of your players.
Yeah, so I mean, when we're on the recruiting cycle first, man, I mean, they got to show fastball command, and as everything, they have to have the physical ability to pitch at this level. But for us, guys that are going to compete, win the 1-1, get ahead. I mean, like I said, fastball command is huge, right? Then we dig deeper into their secondary stuff. Are they able to get guys out? And how I see it is, is this guy going to be able to get the tough hitters out? And we had I was blessed in my first 2 years here at Bethune to have a pitching coach named Keith Zuniga, who right now is actually the assistant, coach over at New Mexico State. And he did a phenomenal job, with our pitchers. Like I said, he worked with them, and, they got to be able to build some strength in the off season and, through the course of the fall and even in the spring. I mean, we believe in throwing, 3, 4, 5 times a week. We're going to win. But at the same time, we're not going to, at the expense of one of our pitchers' arms getting hurt or whatnot. So we've been fortunate to do that. So we've just kind of changed around what we do with our pitchers, man. Believe in the J-band, believe in the drive line, believe in throwing. You got to feed the arm, and the arm is going to tell you how much you can or can't throw, and just listen to the arm. So we've been blessed, man, to have a pitching coach in Keith Zuniga, but he's not with us right now. He's in New Mexico State, and, we're just going to keep it rolling with our guys.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Hunter, I don't know how you feel, but this conversation has me, not to be down, but I want to play for you, Johnny. You fired me up. I'm an old pitcher who got sent home after A-ball, but I want to play for you. Hunter, his attitude is epic, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like fastball command is a little bit lost on us these days. And yeah, everyone's like velo, high, low, spin. all of that stuff. But location. It's just like real estate. Like pitching is location. And like if you throw, I don't care how hard you throw it, even if it's the high one, if it's down the middle, it gives you a lot better chance than if you locate it just a little bit more in as a hitter. So looking for guys at that age to find fastball command, throwing every day. These are things to strengthen the arm. I'm like a student of the game in the process and developing and like making myself better. And that's why it's exciting to me to hear how you make them better. As far as off-speed pitches, when you're looking at your pitchers, are you typically just letting them like practice on it? Are you a slider guy, curveball guy, changeup, or just whatever the pitcher kind of has a knack for already?
I think what they have, it goes big in it, right? But I mean, if let's say a curveball, if a guy comes in and says, hey, I throw a curveball and it's very loopy, then we try and see if we can change it up, maybe throw a harder slider. Some guys have had success that way, but we all know the equalizer is the changeup, and a lot of high school pitchers, have the confidence to throw a changeup or even know how to throw a changeup, but it's a field pitch, man. That's something that we throw every single day, whether it's a long toss day, whether it's a shorter day. We have to make sure that our guys get a feel for their changeup. And I mean, Hunter, if you're 2-0 sitting dead right on a fastball and a pitcher throws a 2-0 changeup, it will go ahead and induce some weak contact. All of a sudden, now you got a 4-3 put out, or a pitcher gets out of an inning being able to establish, the ability to throw a changeup. So I think for us, we're going to win the 1-1s. As a pitcher, we're going to not necessarily pitch to a hitter's weakness, but more to our strengths. And then we're going to locate, So like I said, everyone wants the velo guy, but I mean, we had a great story. Our number 2 starter, Alec Mendez, you look at his stats, man, he had 22 punch outs to 4 walks, but he's a lefty. He's 83, 85, up to 86 with a pretty good breaking ball, but a plus feel to the changeup. He emerged as our Saturday guy. But if you're able to pitch and throw it across the plate and win the 1-1s and, stay ahead, get ahead and put guys away, you're going to be very successful on the mound. And that's, what found success for us early on in the COVID-19 season or the spring 2020 season.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And the 2-0 changeup, a lot of hitters, me coming up, they're, this guy's afraid to throw his fastball, No, it takes crazy confidence, especially, in college levels, to throw off speed when you're that far behind, because falling behind, then everyone on the defense could potentially get mad at you. So if everyone buys into that philosophy, I think the changeup is the biggest X factor, and pitchers that have a good changeup are the hardest to game plan against as a hitter. So, man, you hit 2 of the huge keys: locate your fastball and changeup. So, absolutely great stuff, Daron. Did you have another question for him? But I'm just like really eating it in, and like that's the hitter pitcher matchup that I really love, and I love that you're teaching that to the kids these days. I think that's why the pitchers are coming up so prepared these days.
No more questions, Hunter, but you're making a great point. Alec Mendez was amazing. Nick Rogers was amazing. Norris was amazing. You had a whole staff of amazing guys. And your attitude, it's infectious, Johnny. We're certainly sorry for what has happened in 2021, but we want to celebrate your success. Wish you best of luck and health. And can't wait till your guys are out in the summertime in 2021. And also, in the fall, and then in the 2022 season in the SWAC. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having us on, and, stay safe, and, looking forward to, what the future holds for Bethune-Cookman University. Hail Wildcats.
Excellent.
All right, Johnny.
Yes, absolutely. More on Perfect Game College Baseball.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech. When the best and most impactful in an industry join forces, you, the athlete, win. This is PG Tech, a partnership driven by Perfect Game and K-Motion, an innovator in human motion learning, along with several best-in-class companies elevating technology and athlete development. It's a combination of state-of-the-art technologies, 3D body measurement, high-speed cameras, launch monitors, radar, bat sensors in the PG Tech cloud, guiding players, coaches, scouts, and recruiters in making their best decisions. PG Tech will help athletes and instructors achieve their goals by understanding the cause and effect of a player's movement to improve the development of that player. In other words, this is the best answer. Welcome to the future. Welcome to PG Tech.
This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Here's Daron Sutton and Hunter Pence.
Well, since we're on campus at UNLV and being safe, we didn't want to invite this person to come in person and kind of be in the tight press box. But we do want to have a conversation with UNLV slugger Jack Thomas Wold, who, despite having last year shortened up, had a great summer. Jack spends time with us now. First baseman, but also talented outfielder because he's leaner and he's meaner now. Hey, Jack, thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. I want to start with your summer because when your spring was shortened so dramatically, you went up to the Northwoods League, you went to Wisconsin Rapids, and you did really well. You homered 6 times. I could give people the numbers, but tell me, approach-wise, seeing live pitching, what was best about this summer for you?
I really loved this summer because it was more of just playing. Like, it was fun, and I was glad I got the opportunity to get out of my bedroom and stop doing nothing and go play some baseball with some kids, some of the most talented kids I've ever played with around the country. I mean, I don't know how much you followed or they told you about that team, but it was incredible, some of those guys I played with. And I really just kind of went into it with this could be one of the last seasons that I might be playing. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know when the next game was going to be. We could have got shut down that next day. So we kind of just went into every game like it was going to be the end of the season. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had playing.
Wow, Jack, that really, it does paint a picture right there. And I want to say that mentality, you should hold on to that because that's a mentality that we would always try to preach no matter how big the situation. If you just go play like it could be your last game, like you don't want to go home, it really empowers you and you stop trying to force things, make things happen. Did you kind of feel that energy of just enjoying baseball?
Yeah, definitely. I felt that energy and I felt that the support from the guys behind me and the support I had from my teammates, like these were guys, we were rolling into games and we were in a pandemic, not sure who was clean and who was a COVID person and whatnot. And then we were rolling into these games like with these guys that we've known for 10 days, not sure what was going to happen. And it was a blast. It was amazing.
That's amazing. So I want to look back at like some of the stuff you've done in 2019. Obviously you hit 331. You played every day. In 2020, you were playing every day as well. Both years, you led your team in game-winning RBIs. You're a game-winning RBI machine. Can you talk to me a little bit about being in those moments, how this I don't think anything happens by coincidence. So the clutch mechanic, the clutch gene, talk to me a little bit about being in those moments and your thought process, your approach, and how you handle those situations and why you're able to succeed so much.
I think it's more of just not wanting to let the guys down. Like I said, the guys before me and the guys after me. And, sometimes that pressure can be a lot, having those like that looking over you and in that bat because hitting's already hard enough. But, I'm sure on like the biggest of stages, it's just that it's not demoralizing. It's not embarrassing because it happens to everybody. But the last thing I want to be doing is walking back to that dugout with my teammates running out into the field, because I didn't get the job done. So it really comes down to it. Like, for me and the pitcher, which one of us is going to be walking back?
It's interesting. This conversation is with Jack Thomas Wald at UNLV. We're here at his ballpark. I'm hosting the show. Hunter's at his home out west. But for me, in looking at who you are as a hitter and seeing your left-handed swing, and I know Hunter will follow up with a lot more experiential answers, but what are some of the keys to your approach? And obviously, as your coach Stan Stolte said, you've tightened up, leaned up a little bit, so that'll move you around defensively. What are some of the keys to your approach? Because all you've done is hit, and that goes back to high school. From your spikes to your helmet, the moving parts mechanically, what are some of the keys?
I've never been a huge mechanics guy. I hate digging deep into mechanics and sitting in the tunnel and everybody breaking down all their swings when, they're hitting pretty well. I'm like, why are you trying to change stuff? But I just have always been huge and I've always been taught to be huge on timing. And, even when your mechanics are messing you up, if you're on time, you're going to give yourself a chance. I've always been big on my hands because my hands, the same thing. If I'm a little out front or if I'm a little beat, like as long as my hands stay in the zone long enough, I can give myself a chance to get a hit. And it's really like, once I kind of thought about that as more of my approach, like just, not to just try and like look for one thing, but to just give myself a chance as much as I can. Cause I've already said it, but hitting's hard enough. There's all those guys out in front of you in the field, and like solid, efficient contact is kind of just what I'm looking for. And whatever happens, happens. I stopped trying to really direct the ball and where it goes and really control the uncontrollable that can happen in that bat.
Yeah, I think that's profound stuff. And you said that you've always been taught. Who's influenced you the most? And I want to get a little bit into a couple of the things you said there, but I want to know who have you worked with that taught you these kind of simple mechanics, being on time, being fluid, trusting your hands?
When I was in high school, I was blessed and very lucky enough to have 3 coaches who played professional baseball as my high school coaches. And they were incredible. They were a huge influence on me too. And kind of like when I got to school, like to college, I really thought I had a head start compared to all the other guys coming in, because I'd already had that pro like mindset in my head that they'd been instilling in me when I was like 13 years old. And then I get to college and I got guys like Higgy and now Corey Vanderhook. Like these are all guys who have been on big stages, guys who have played professionally, and it's nice to just have them also preaching to me like it's not always going to be the most mechanical thing, especially because now all this information and technology is super new. Like not all those guys played during this time, and it's like they're just drilling it into my head that not to let all that stuff get to me and just to more of, control what I can control, like be on time, because when you're on time and you're ready to hit, like bad things are going to happen for the other guy.
Yeah, I think you got to trust that. Like the most important things I always said was you have to you rather be ready early than late, because if you're ready late, you can't play catch up, and you have to see the ball to hit the ball. So like hyper focus on seeing and allow the body. The more you practice it, you do have all of this new technology and all of this new information, but it seems like it all comes pretty natural for you. And when that's going, the less you can think, the more. And so let me ask you. And we like to ask this to a lot of the young guys when they came up. When you're hitting your best, like, what did you feel? Like when you were really in the zone, what do you feel?
Fluid, comfortable. I know it's you definitely understand it, but it's one of the greatest feelings ever when you're swinging the bat, and it's almost hard to miss. Like when you're going through those streaks, it's incredible, but you really just try and savor it. And then sometimes I like to write it down to be like, this is what I was feeling when I was going good, because there's those days where somebody throwing 84 looks like 95 and somebody throwing 95 looks like 84. So like, you kind of got to really remember those feelings and acknowledge when you're going good and when you're going bad. And that way, like you have something to reference every time. But I usually just try and remember how comfortable I was, how controlled my breathing was and how loose my hands were and how like much I wasn't thinking about how I have to get a hit or what's my average or like what's going on right now.
Incredible stuff, Hunter. I figured you'd dive deeper in the right way. I want to ask you real quickly, and I wanted to interrupt you earlier, but you and Hunter were vibing. Name names on those coaches. Like if you had guys that impacted you when you were 13 and 14, please name names. We'd like to hear who they are.
That program was insane, but Scott Baker was my head coach. He came over to Basic after being at Gorman and winning 100 state titles in a row. I can't even remember the number. And then I had Essex Burton. He played professionally too back in the day, and so did Robert Persona. And they were all three one was a speed guy, an infielder. The other guy was a catcher, and then the other one was a left-handed pitcher. So especially having him to throw BP to me and tell me like, this is how guys are going to come at you. Like this is how being a lefty, a power lefty, or a complete hitting lefty, like this is how they're going to try and abuse you and try and take advantage of you. And it was nice to have them to kind of expose me when they could and then teach me from it.
So Vegas baseball, your program's nice enough to host me here, and this is the background, obviously. You're a local guy. What has it meant to be a part of this program? And there is kind of a cool attitude about Vegas baseball. A lot of big league names, certainly, but being a part of UNLV, Vegas baseball, what does it mean to you?
I think I tell people this all the time, especially the young guys, the young local guys too, because, it means more to be able to play for Vegas, like than anybody can even imagine. Like the fact that I'm playing in my own backyard and I get to have 10 to 12 friends and family members coming to every single game. I always thought about how it would be on the road, and like, you know, my mom and dad wouldn't have been able to come to see every game that they possibly could. You know, they'd be coming to one series a year because it's basically a vacation trip. But it's good to be home, and like good to know that my family can come to all my games, my friends can. And especially because I know how talented Vegas baseball is. You know, there's some incredible players, like you said, professional guys, but there's also some incredible young guys who I'm really excited to watch come through the program and go to other programs, honestly, just because I know how good it is out here. But, you know, we get to go, you walk into the cages in Vegas and you run into 5 pro guys and 7 guys from D1s and a couple of your UNLV teammates. And it's just like, it's everywhere you look, there's a good baseball outlet to learn from.
We appreciate your time, my friend. Best of luck to you. Thanks for sharing your house with me personally, and have an amazing season.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Jack Thomas Wald, we want to thank him for joining us. Johnny Hernandez of Bethune-Cookman, and also Tony Vitello of Tennessee. This has been a great show. We do it every week. Hunter and I, glad to have you hanging out with us. This has been Perfect Game, College Baseball.